Welcome to TV Africa News. Hope you had a beautiful day. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahabe Kajura, and in the headlines. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni opens places of worship, keeps schools shut. Honorable Member of Parliament Segirinya faces fresh charges related to protesting 2021 presidential election results. And African leaders at the UNGA sound alarm over vaccine shortage and widening global inequality. And in our sports today, African Rally title races goes to Zambia. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we start with one of our top stories. Now, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on Wednesday ordered for the reopening of places of worship, but with strict adherence to the standard operating procedures to avoid further spread of coronavirus. Now, Museveni is saying that places of worship can now open under strict guidelines, like limiting the number of 200 people and adhering to all other SOPs in place. We have more on this report.
The president also allowed increasing number of people attending weddings and other social events to 200, while casinos, gaming, betting shops and gyms were allowed to operate during day and close by 6 p.m. Museveni also added weekly and monthly markets to open with strict adherence to SOPs. Mr. Museveni, however, kept other sectors closed, reasoning that the number of people already vaccinated is still too low and therefore cannot risk to reopen them. The president said that the 4.8 million priority population, including teachers, should first get vaccinated before the country can open schools, with the post-secondary institutions open with effect on November 1st, 2021, on the condition that all teachers and non-teaching staffs are vaccinated, while the rest of the learning institutions will open in January 2022. To date, out of the targeted 55,000 teachers, 269,945 have already received the first dose of the vaccination, while the 96,653 have received the second dose. This leaves a total of 28,055 not yet vaccinated at all. Mr. Museveni added concerts, disco halls, bars and other leisure hubs to stay closed until after 4.8 million priority groups of people, which includes health workers, teachers, security personnel, and elderly persons, are fully vaccinated. The president maintained curfew time between 7 p.m. and 5 a.m. and border movement time at 6 p.m. The president directed all responsible leaders at the district levels, including resident district commissioner, chief administrative officers, district health officers, and others to carry out mobilization for all eligible groups to go for vaccination. Batuli Kawala reporting for TV Africa.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter Kawala. Now, moving on, Marion Mangeni has issued criminal summons against the National Unity Platform and Kawempe North MP Mohamed Segirinya for protesting against the presidential elections results in March 2021. We have more on this report.
According to prosecution, Segirinya led a group of a number of people on March 22nd to hold an unlawful demonstration against the Electoral Commission official presidential results. Prosecution alleges that Segirinya held placards that demanded for the victory of new presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi, an act that amounted into inciting violence. Prosecution alleges that Segirinya and others held this demonstration at Mini Price in Kampala. Segirinya, who is also the MP of Kawempe North, was expected at court on Tuesday for the case hearing, but he was a no-show, prompting court to summon him. Magistrate Mangeni adjourned the court proceedings until October 20, 2021, a session where Segirinya will be expected to appear. Segirinya is already facing 6 charges, including that of terrorism and murder in the Masaka High Court, following allegations that he took part in killing 3 people in Masaka. After spending almost 2 weeks in prison over the recent spate of murders in Masaka, Segirinya was this week on Tuesday granted bail by court in Masaka, with his Machinje West counterpart Alan Sewanyana.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, moving on, President Museveni has directed the Prime Minister, Robin Nabanja, to work on ensuring the reopening of the operations of Give Directly, an international NGO operating in Uganda. Now, Give Directly is a non-profit organization operating in East Africa that helps families living in extreme poverty by making unconditional cash transfers to them via mobile money. We have more on this report.
On Wednesday, the leaders of Give Directly met with President Museveni at the State Lodge in Nakasero following an early meeting in June at State House in Entebbe. The meeting was attended by the Prime Minister Robin Nabanja, the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development Betty Amongi, the Minister of Local Government Raphael Magezi, and the State Minister of Internal Affairs General David Mhozi. The President outlined 3 key principles for deepening collaboration between the government and the Give Directly. He said there should be a transparent engagement to ensure government understands the activities of the non-governmental organization. Museveni urged the non-governmental organization to protect its recipients from fraud or scams targeting them and safeguard donor funds. Give Directly's Global Managing Director Joe Huston said he was happy to support Uganda's journey out of poverty. According to Give Directly, they have $30 million available for current and planned projects in Uganda for poverty alleviation, emergency relief, refugees, disaster preparedness, and social protection. Give Directly had, before the suspension of their activities, launched a $10 million direct cash assistance program as part of the national COVID response strategy, aimed at supporting those who lost income as a result of the pandemic and who are at risk of food insecurity. The cash transfer program targeted 120,000 people in 6 cities, with each getting about $27 per month for 3 months. With President Museveni giving a second chance to the non-governmental organization, it is good news for the beneficiaries of the cash transfer program that is expected to resume.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news today, world leaders at the UN General Assembly on Tuesday sounded the alarm over vaccine shortages and how the COVID-19 pandemic has threatened economic recovery and widened inequality across the globe. Take a look at the story.
Secretary General Antonio Guterres rang the alarm in his annual State of the World speech at Tuesday's opening of the UN General Assembly's annual high-level meeting for leaders of its 193 member nations. African leaders representing Rwanda, the Democratic Republic of Congo, along with Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema, called for vaccine equity and distribution. Paul Kagame, the Rwandan president, told the assembly in a pre-recorded speech that they can and must do more to speed up vaccine distribution in Africa so as to benefit the entire world. For Zambia's new president, Hakainde Hichilema, it is the duty and indeed responsibility of all the leaders in the global democratic community to make democracy work for all their people. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro issued a defense of his administration, rebuffing criticism of its handling of the pandemic and touting recent data indicating less Amazon deforestation. He said his government supports vaccination but not vaccine passports or mandates, and doubled down on early treatment, drugs such as the anti-malarial hydroxychloroquine without naming the drug. For his part, Philippines' Rodrigo Duterte also echoed calls for vaccine equity and distribution. Last year, no leader showed up in person because of COVID-19, but this year, despite the pandemic still raging, over 100 heads of state and government and several dozen ministers are slated to speak from the General Assembly podium during the high-level meeting, which ends on September 27th.
Moving on in our international news today, the International Day of Peace is held every year on September 21st. To mark the day in Congo's North Kivu province, the UN peacekeeping mission invited up about 20 students to Goma for a discussion about peace. We have more.
North Kivu is home of dozens of armed groups which have terrorized the population by committing massacres, kidnappings, recruiting of child soldiers, and sexual violence. United Nations Peacekeeping Mission, MONUSCO, has come under heavy criticism for failing to stop attacks to civilians despite being the largest peacekeeping force in the world. Amanduba, a MONUSCO public information officer, said that the mission has been around since 1999 and have pacified the country, which was divided into several zones where there was some belligerence. Zawandi Gasindokora, the head of Students Association in North Kivu, was born during the war and has never known peace, said her home city of Goma has been attacked and captured by rebel groups in the past. North Kivu is home of more than 40 armed groups. In May, the region was put under a state of emergency by President Felix, but attacks by armed groups have not stopped. Batuli Kawala reporting for TV Africa.
Well, thank you so much, reporter Kawala. Now, Tunisians reacted on Tuesday after the country's president announced plans to draft a new electoral code and appoint a transitional leader into hang on the exceptional powers that he seized in July, throwing the country's young democracy into question. Our reporter has more.
In a speech on Monday night, President Kais Saied promised that the new initiatives would respect Tunisians' hard-fought rights and freedoms and democratic constitution. Said's actions have sidelined Tunisia's long-governing Islamist party, which accuses him of a coup and worried Islamist groups around the region. While many Tunisians welcome his moves, human rights groups and some others are concerned about the future of the only country to emerge from the turbulent Arab Spring uprisings with a new democratic system. Political analyst Slahedin Juchi said that he believed the change would reduce the role of political parties and rely on the election of individuals. President Said had announced his plans to supporters in the impoverished town of Sidi Bouzid, the birthplace of the Arab Spring, where many people are disillusioned with the country's failure to solve economic and social problems since overthrowing its repressive leaders a decade ago. He defended his July 25th decision to suspend parliament, fire the prime minister and seize executive powers, which he said was needed to save the country amid unrest over financial troubles and the government's handling of Tunisia's coronavirus crisis.
Moving on, Libya's parliament on Tuesday passed a no-confidence vote in the war-scared country's unity government, dealing a new blow to UN-backed peace efforts and plans for December elections. Our reporter has more.
Secretary General Antonio Guterres rang the alarm in his annual State of the World speech at Tuesday's opening of the UN General Assembly's annual high-level meeting for leaders of its 193 member nations. African leaders representing Rwanda, the Democratic Republic of Congo, along with Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema, called for vaccine equity and distribution. Paul Kagame, the Rwandan president, told the assembly in a pre-recorded speech that they can and must do more to speed up vaccine distribution in Africa so as to benefit the entire world. For Zambia's new president, Hakainde Hichilema, it is the duty and indeed responsibility of all the leaders in the global democratic community to make democracy work for all their people. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro issued a defense of his administration, rebuffing criticism of its handling of the pandemic and touting recent data indicating less Amazon deforestation. He said his government supports vaccination, but not vaccine passports or mandates, and doubled down on early treatment, drugs such as the anti-malarial hydroxychloroquine without naming the drug. For his part, Philippines' Rodrigo Duterte also echoed calls for vaccine equity and distribution. Last year, no leader showed up in person because of COVID-19, but this year, despite the pandemic still raging, over 100 heads of state and government and several dozen ministers are slated to speak from the General Assembly podium during the high-level meeting, which ends on September 27th.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with the business news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. Now, officials at the 600 megawatt Karuma hydropower plant have issued the country that the work is 98.8% complete. Now, the remarks were made as the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, Ruth Nankabira, inspected the progress of works at the power station in the company of Peter Amat Lokresi, Minister of State for Minerals, among others.
During the visit, the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, Ruth Nankabira, inspected the outpatient department structure and nurses' houses at Dichuni Health Center 4, under construction as part of the project expected to be handed over in December 2021. Nankabira said that upon completion, the plant will contribute greatly to the country's total installed capacity, and therefore they have to ensure that they connect more Ugandans to the national grid. Nankabira noted that the issue of vandalism of power lines is widespread and requires a multi-sectoral approach. Nankabira, who later attended a high-level UN dialogue on energy, emphasized that accessibility and affordability of energy go hand in hand, so there is need for power tariff to be reduced to 6 US cents. The officials explained that the major ongoing works at the power station entail embedment concrete for the tracks of the maintenance crane and concrete for the pavement layer atop the dam block. The station will evacuate power through lines like Karuma Orio 400 kV line to West Nile, Karuma Kwando 400 kV line to Kampala, and the Karuma Lida 132 kV line. The project, estimated at $1.7 billion US, was launched by President Museveni in August 2013.
Away from business, in our health news today, President Museveni warned on Wednesday that he would fire district leaders in areas where COVID-19 vaccines are wasted or left to expire as government scales up efforts to inoculate at least 22 million Ugandans. We have more on this report. While appearing on a televised address on COVID-19 situation in the country on Wednesday night, President Museveni directed with immediate effect that all RDCs, CAOs and DHOs to carry out intensive mobilization for all eligible priority groups to go for vaccination. He added that they should, in addition, ensure that no vaccines are wasted or left to expire or face dismissal if such a thing happens. The latest Ministry of Health report indicates that so far only 1,777,685 doses of the vaccine have been administered in the whole country, with 3,135 virus deaths recorded since March last year, when the virus outbreak was confirmed in the country. According to government, the country has so far recorded 122,502 positive cases since March last year, with 340 active cases currently on admission at different health centers across the country. But in order to prevent the third wave and importation of emergency of new variants in Uganda, Mr. Museveni directed the Ministry of Health to enhance surveillance at the airport and all the 53 land ports of entry. The President further said the UPDF and Civil Aviation Authority will support the Ministry of Health to complete the modifications necessary for installation of the testing facilities and to carry out the surveillance processes. our sports news today, the battle for who becomes the next African Rally champion resumes this week with the Sarago Zambia International Rally in the capital, Lusaka. Now, the Zambia event comes as the fourth round of the African Rally Championship following the cancellation of the Pearl of Africa Uganda Rally, which was set for August. Our reporter has more. Thank you so much, our reporter. Before we end our bulletin, let's have a recap of our top stories. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni opens places of worship, keeps schools shut. Honorable Member of Parliament Segirinya faces fresh charges related to protesting 2021 presidential election results. And African leaders at the UNGA sound alarm over vaccine shortage and widening global inequality. And in our sports today, African Rally title races goes to Zambia. Thank you so much for being a loyal audience. For more we started from, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.